And outside the box reviews, our countdown to Halloween continues. And today we are looking at the Mezco Cinema of Fear Michael Myers figure from Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. So sometime in between the original Rob Zombie remake and his sequel, the rights for Michael Myers transferred from NECA to Mezco, and that's not surprising because that was the way the wind was blowing at the time. NECA was making, well, pretty much what we looked at last time, a static statue figure for the most part, and Mezco was doing more articulation, granted more stylized figures, but at the time I was on the side of Mezco. I thought they were putting out the better figures, and I was happy that they had the Halloween license. Was I still happy about that after I got this figure? Well, let's talk about that. Michael's knife is not badly done at all. It is obviously a bulkier knife than done with NECA's version. I really like the blood effect they did here too. They did a similar thing with the black and the red. This looks more dipped and stabbed because it kind of cuts off at a certain place, and I like that. I think it's a really nice effect for the knife. The handle also has the rivets on it. It has some wood grain sculpted in. Just overall, it's a bigger and chunkier piece. Once again, fitting with Mezco's stylized design. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it makes it a little less realistic looking. Unfortunately, the head of this figure is where most of my problems lie. The first thing I need to bring up is that I have modified this figure slightly. When you get him, originally he had a beard sticking out underneath his mask here, and I took an X-Acto blade and removed that because that wasn't accurate to the film. In the film, this was supposed to be the night of the first movie, the same night, or kind of, it's the hospital dream sequence. And he didn't have the beard until he was in full hobo mode about a year later, so that wasn't something I wanted to keep on my figure. But this is very much that bloody look. You have just massive quantities of blood over the side of his face, some more splatters around. I think they did a little better job with the depth of the scarring than NECA did, but there's definitely not as much as there should be. The hair also very much looks like it's a separate piece. You can see a very large seam here at the top. I do like this piece on the side that kind of droops down. You can see it's matted to the face by blood, and from the profile, this mask looks amazing. The bottom's a lot more torn up. The hair doesn't have a lot of paint detail to it, which is a bit of a downside, and there's no slit in the back of the mask like NECA's had. But once again, one of my biggest gripes with this figure are the eyes. The shape of the eyes is just off. It kind of looks a little Asian, and it just does not look like Tyler Mane portraying Michael Myers. And the nose is also a little on the narrow side, makes it look a little goofy. Mezco's stylized look has worked with some characters. It's not working here for me. Down here we have the neck. No chest hair on this one, but it's a dirty neck. The undershirt there, and some very, very bloody coveralls. Just the entire shoulders are soaked in blood. The pockets. The patch is gone, which is movie accurate. Same with on the side of the arm here. His arms are also soaked in blood. He has the one gripping hand here with the dirty fingernails and just nasty looking. This is a hand I believe they had used on a Jason previously, so a reused part. And over on this side, he has his gripping hand for holding his knife. Now they fixed something here that they had messed up on with some of the other figures around this time. They had started putting the thumb pointing down in a weird direction. Now they actually have it looking like it should for gripping something, which I enjoy a lot. We have the clasps down the side of the leg as they were before. Boot, which I think they did a great job with the detailing on. This looks really nice. The problem here though is where it's not bloody, it's not that dirty. It's a very plain khaki color and not as much paint detailing as I would really like to have on this figure. For articulation, he has a ball joint at the base of the neck. You get a pretty good range of motion. The tattered bottom of the mask does kind of hinder it somewhat, and that's a bit of a problem. I feel if this figure was done today, the mask would have a soft rubber bottom to it, and we'd really get some great movement out of it. Pin socket shoulders, you can go out to the side, not too much, and then forward and back. Once again, hindered by the costume. Hinge and swivel at the elbow, which I love. Swivel at the wrist and also bend. Not too much, but enough of a bend to make a difference. We have a swivel at the waist, which is cool, but it breaks up the sculpt very obviously. And honestly, you turn it at all and the body doesn't light up anymore, so that's a bit of a bummer. And then he has no movement in the feet. And just because I forgot to point it out, he has a very nice hole in the back of his shoulder here where he would have gotten hit. So in a weird way, I almost like this figure a little bit more than the NECA version. It's basically the same character. There's some minor changes between the movies, but I don't want to recommend this figure either. NECA is much more movie really accurate version, and I don't think Mezco's stylized look works here with the figure, but they got some things done a little better than NECA did in terms of articulation and some details of the sculpt. Not many, but some. And I feel like they're really just on this even par, sitting right below a recommendable level. So they both get this mild not recommend by just being okay and almost passable. They both have major flaws, and that stinks. I wish they didn't. I wish I could love both of these figures and have two really cool Michael Myers in my collection. And I don't. I just have two that are okay. The real kicker too is I have a picture saved on my computer of a prototype Mezco did years ago for the aborted Cinema of Fear Series 5, and besides a Part 3 Leatherface, they were going to do a Hobo Myers, which was basically this body recycled with a new head and a coat added to it, and the sleeping bag. And I thought that looked so cool. It wouldn't have been that hard. It was pretty much a reuse of this body. I was so excited for it, and it never came to pass. And that's really a bummer. And what's worse is now this figure is fairly hard to get, fairly expensive, but I would love to pick one up and do some mods to it and make it a Hobo Myers. I've done my own custom Hobo Myers from scratch, but I sold it, and I think this body would be a pretty decent base to make one out of. Make sure you check out Outside the Box Reviews on Facebook. There'll be a link below. Also check out Outside the Box Reviews on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. And also come join me over on allscaleseverything.com. It's a new community for collectors of action figures of all shapes and sizes. So come join me over there and help build the community. And until next time, stay tuned as we continue our reviews leading up to Halloween here on Outside the Box Reviews.